The ethos of Stoicism is a strategy for enduring the vicissitudes of fate, the whims of existence. Stoicism has been my companion in the face of business setbacks and sorrows, confronting looming deadlines, natural calamities, and global health crises. Therefore, in today's clip, I intend to provide you with several ways to promote greater resilience, to evolve and prepare for life's challenges. Some have spoken of fortitude, and then there's Epictetus, the acquired, as his name translates from Greek. Epictetus was born a slave and spent the first 30 years of his life in chains. As a young man, he was acquired by a man so brutal and degraded that at one point, he violently twisted Epictetus's limb for unknown reasons. All we know of Epictetus is that he repeatedly warned his master, "You will break my limb, you will break my limb," and eventually, when it happened, he faced his master squarely and said, "I told you this would happen." Following this event, Epictetus's limb was broken, and he limped for the rest of his days. However, something fortuitous happened soon after. He began attending the lectures of a Stoic philosopher named Musonius Rufus, and upon Epictetus's emancipation from servitude in his 30s, he decided to become a philosophy teacher himself. His discourses soon gathered a large following: the dispossessed, the prosperous, the powerful, and even the future Emperor Hadrian reportedly passed through Epictetus's lecture hall. So what did he impart to them? Why did people from across the empire flock to the feet of a former slave? It was for his ability to instruct them in what we all need: how to be resilient. It was this skill that Epictetus pledged to ensure we led a mostly serene life, and Epictetus mastered it and taught others how to emulate it. How do you nurture resilience, or, as Epictetus put it, discover the ability of persistence? He asserted that it begins with your chief aim in life, which is being able to identify and discern between what is within our control and what is beyond it, the elements we command and those we do not. That is the crucial differentiation every individual must make. It is the disparity between those who are resilient and those who are not. One thing you learn in endurance sports is that there is always more to go than you think is possible. Your body is asking you to stop, or your mind is asking you to stop, but in reality, your body is capable of more, and you must push through. For me, endurance sports and philosophy have helped even as a writer, because whenever I think of quitting, whenever I feel it's unproductive, insurmountable, whenever I feel I can't persist any longer, I remind myself that I recognize this feeling, I've encountered it before. Epictetus discusses subjecting every impression to scrutiny. He explains how a money changer would discern what a counterfeit coin looks and sounds like. And when you engage in endurance sports, you reach that point where you recognize what weakness feels like, what it's asking you to do, and how you don't need to heed it because of your training. You realize that most of these constraints, most of this impulse to give up or slow down, is false, and you overcome it, you break through it, and it propels you toward your goal. All growth is on the other side of resistance, whether in writing, in a relationship, in your career, in a creative pursuit, in business. All growth is beyond that resistance, so having an endurance sports regimen, something where you're pushing yourself, be it CrossFit, weightlifting, running, or climbing, something where you're constantly evaluating those reserves, and every exercise is learning when to push forward and when not to push forward. I cannot recommend this enthusiastically enough. I know engaging in outdoor activities and involving oneself in these endeavors may not seem like what the Stoics or philosophers were doing, but in fact, it was what they were doing. You know, Marcus Aurelius was a hunter, rode horses, fought. There was a Stoic named Chrysippus and Cleanthes who were boxers and long-distance runners. The Stoics were athletes, and this practice is deeply crucial to achieving the philosophical posture of resilience and fortitude. There's a quote from Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest individuals in the world. He says it's extremely important to live your life by an inner scorecard, not an external one. What he means by that is that sometimes in life, you do everything right and it doesn't work out. So if all you care about is what the scoreboard shows or the win-loss record, you'll interpret that as a setback, despite knowing you're learning the wrong lesson because you actually did everything you were supposed to do, but it didn't work out in your favor. But this is the trickiest part, it's where arrogance deceives us. Often, you do everything wrong or not as well as you could have and still achieve the outcome you expected. And that's where we learn the wrong lesson. We learn it's okay to be lazy, it's okay to take shortcuts, it's okay to be lucky. So, I believe one of the most compelling examples of someone not giving in to this, not following the external scoreboard, is the New England Patriots. In 2000, they chose a man named Tom Brady, a sixth-round pick number 199 in the draft. Possibly, this is the most extraordinary draft pick in football history, perhaps even in professional sports history. This season, he will surpass 60,000 total passing yards, 11 Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 regular season MVPs, possibly the greatest quarterback to have ever existed. You would think the Patriots would be thrilled they made this pick. They were thrilled it worked out, but that's not the lesson they absorbed from it. In fact, they focused on the fact that their entire intelligence failed. How did they let Tom Brady fall to the sixth round? They got lucky, they didn't think he was worth picking earlier, and in fact, if he hadn't served as a backup and then if Drew Bledsoe hadn't gotten injured, perhaps we would have never recognized how exceptional Tom Brady truly is. The story of the New England Patriots could have been told differently. So, even in this phenomenal success, what the Patriots are focusing on is the setback within success. And this is the will to improve. There's a quote, I don't know if you've read the children's story, The Little Prince, it's a wonderful story we tell to kids. There's a proverb there that I find incredibly important. It says that vain people only listen to praise. That's not who the Patriots are, that's not what they're doing. Instead, amid all the praise, they are listening and contemplating what they could have done better. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius says, it's not a misfortune that this has happened to me. He says, it's a fortune that this has happened to me. It's preferable that this happened to me, he says, than to someone else, because not everyone would be able to handle it the way I am. And that's what you want to remember as you navigate hardships, better me than someone else. I know how to navigate situations like this, I'm resilient enough to navigate situations like this, I'm strong enough to navigate situations like this. I will overcome this, I will turn this into something constructive. And not everyone would be strong enough, smart enough, resilient enough, innovative enough to do that. And that's why it's not a misfortune that whatever this is has happened to you, it's a fortune that this has happened to you, and that's what the concept of Amor Fati is. You embrace it because it happened to you and recognize what you will be able to extract from it. Who are you learning from? Not just from your educators, but what kind of proactive learning and education path are you pursuing right now? What questions are you asking? Whom are you asking these questions to specifically? I would posit, what publications are you reading? I love this aphorism from General Mattis. He says if you haven't read hundreds of books, you are functionally ignorant. He says this in Call Sign Chaos, which is an exceptional book. But he's saying that humans have been struggling on this planet and documenting it for at least 5,000 years, and he says it's unacceptable, even criminal, for leaders to study by trial and error what has already been understood by others. He says you're studying by trial and error, accruing casualties, when you could simply be reading publications. So, if you haven't read hundreds of publications, you're functionally ignorant. There are aspiring officers who have written about their experiences. Whatever occupation you desire in the armed forces, people have already written about it, intelligent people have already written about it, people who have achieved success have already written about it. You can learn from all sorts of different people. You want to learn from cautionary tales, you want to learn from inspirations, you want to read how-to publications, you want to read historical publications, you want to delve into that treasure trove of hard-won knowledge. Tolstoy says, "I can't comprehend people who can live without conversing with the wise who have ever lived on earth." That's what publications afford us, but Twain, as always, puts it more elegantly: those who don't read have no advantage over those who can't read. If you're not reading, you're basically ignorant. It doesn't matter that you can, it matters if you are doing it. The greatest adversary that everyone in this room faces, our most dangerous adversary for this team, for your profession, for every leader in the world, you see, isn't someone you're up against. It's not the danger of injury, it's not the critics in the media, it's not a coach or a general manager or even another player, it's you. When you consider the great empires of history, when you consider colossal failures, companies that plummeted from billions to $0, when you consider people who sabotage their careers, sabotage their lives, it's not an external force that came in and took what they had, they sabotage themselves, and that goes back to all the Greek poetry and plays, that arrogance, which destroys us, which makes us exceed our limits, which makes us lose focus. That's what the ego is, our greatest adversary. And look, this goes way back, it's in the Bible, pride goes before destruction. And even in ancient Greek poetry, the first thing the gods grant to those they wish to destroy is pride. Pride is what destroys us when we believe ourselves superior to others, when we believe ourselves invincible, when we believe rules don't apply to us. That's when we start facing difficulties, that's when we make mistakes. And it's easy to recognize ego in others. We know Steve Jobs' ego got him fired from Apple the first time. Kanye West, as always, is always getting into trouble. 6ix9ine, will spend the rest of his life in prison. What kind of idiot joins a gang after becoming a successful rapper? But that's what the ego is, it's trying to impress people who really don't matter. This is the person who conceived the Fyre Festival, with $1 billion net worth, now zero, because he loved the marketing and hype of what he was doing, but another term for faking it until you make it is fraud, and he'll be serving time in prison as well. It's easy to contemplate others' egos, we can recognize that quite easily. We know when others' egos are hindering them, but where is your ego hindering you? That's what I want you to reflect on. Where is the ego preventing you from learning or doing? Where are you making decisions based on ego, and how is that causing problems for you?